Chapter 26 Mercy for Guma. When Miranda and Zelda had entered the abandoned town of Old Kasuto under the guise of Blind and Sheik, they had crept in under the cover of darkness and passed into the village as if they belonged. This way, they had been able to gather information without arousing suspicion, and escaping without anyone ever knowing the truth about who they were or why they had come in the first place. Aghanim was not so subtle. Materializing just outside the main and decently guarded gate of the village, the wizard gathered a large ball of flame in his hand, which exploded when he tossed it at a barred door. There was so much force behind the blast that the wooden door was knocked off its hinges, and a couple of the guards were sent flying a short distance who were closest to it. Now strolling into Old Kasuto as if he were the owner, Aghanim kicked the first guard back down when he tried to get up, and tossed a small ball of flame at the next one, causing him to scream and run around while his body was completely engulfed. "Guma!" the wizard yelled before pausing to turn another guard into a gelatinous bot. "Where is Guma?" Freezing another guard before shattering him with a punch, vanishing behind another one to break his neck, and then electrocuting 5 more to death with one blast from his powerful thunder spell, Aghanim could not be stopped as he marched his way through the town, checking each of the buildings one at a time. 3 of Guma's mercenaries tried to ambush him upon opening the front door of a house, but he vanished so that one of their spears hit their own man instead of him, and in a flash of light, the other 2 were condemned to spend the rest of their lives as bots. Stop, please!" a lizard-like gyro creature begged, as he and some others fell to their knees. "You want Guma? We'll give him to you, just stop this!" What unfolded next was a tale that the wizard hadn't expected. Apparently, Blind the Master Thief and her sister, Sheik, had managed to rescue King Facade right from under Guma's nose. This humiliation had more or less destroyed the mercenary army's faith in Ganondorf's cousin, especially after his rumored defeat at King's Cross, as well as the failed attempt to take the North Palace, so they had locked him in the dungeon that had previously held Hyrule's king. "We don't want any more trouble from Hyrule," the Giru insisted. "We were wrong to follow Guma, just let us live and we will never cause any trouble again, we swear it." "Tell me where Guma is," Aghanim replied calmly, "and then you have 10 minutes to gather your possessions. As a ruling lord of Hyrule, I hereby banish you from this kingdom forever for your crimes." The people and creatures that made up Guma's forces were more than happy to take this deal, since Ganondorf's cousin was nothing compared to the original, and once they revealed the entrance to the dungeon, the whole lot ran into their claimed homes in order to collect their possessions, which were probably stolen. However, as soon as they ran into the buildings, a yellowish-colored energy began to form between the wizard's hands, growing in intensity over the next minute or so, until the creatures began to notice. Too late. "Vamos!" Aghanim yelled, releasing the energy. One of his most powerful spells, the light was released into a shockwave of burning, explosive energy that swept through the abandoned village, cutting off the screams of the mercenaries and creatures as it pulverized the old houses, and with the smoke finally cleared, the abandoned village of Old Kasuto was nothing more than a memory. The wizard had considered waiting to do that until Guma was on the surface as well, but a quick punishment was too good for the man who had dared to have the North Palace attacked, while Miranda had been there. Plus, Guma was locked in a cell, giving the wizard plenty of time to recover after using such a spell, and after about several minutes of trying to catch his breath, it was time to recover yet another prisoner from the underground fortress. With the naive hope of saving their own lives, the mercenaries had told him the truth. Their former leader was sitting in a cell right where they said he would be, and at first the large man was actually pleased to see him. "Karok, my friend, I knew you would help me," Guma said hopefully, rushing up to the bars and grabbing onto them. "These filthy traitors turned on me, but from all the noise upstairs I guess you taught them the price of treason, didn't... Karok? Oh no, not you again!" "I'm glad you mentioned treason, Guma," Aghanim replied, flames in his hand giving more light to the cells. "You're under arrest for crimes against the crown, and my father is dead, so no one is coming to save you. Now you can either come with me and face the judgment of your king, or we can have a trial by combat like Rebanok wanted. Choose." Part of the wizard hoped that the large man would attack him upon opening the cell door, but instead Guma simply hung his head and complied. After all, the man was an idiot whose only victories had come from being rescued and who had lost his whole army. Pathetic, Aghanim thought as he marched his prisoner back up to the demolished surface where the shock of old Kasuto's destruction shocked him yet again. This man would never be the worthy opponent that Ganondorf had been. With the traveling recorder that had belonged to his father, it was an easy thing to escort the prisoner back to the North Palace, the two of them arriving in the outside courtyard in a heavy gust of wind. Ordering the surprised guards to inform Queen Zelda of their arrival, Aghanim also had a set of shackles brought in for Guma, chaining him like an animal while snatching the spiked helmet off his head while waiting for the word for them to enter. That word came a couple minutes later for the prisoner to be brought into the throne room, and when Aghanim pushed the large man inside, not only was Zelda there, but so was Miranda, as well as Facade, who was being helped by a servant over to the throne, where he still seemed to be in pain while being helped to sit down. Probably breaking some kind of procedural rules, Miranda ran across the throne room, right past the chained Guma, and threw her arms around her husband. They kissed and kissed and kissed some more, but then they had to get back to business. King Facade, Queen Zelda, I present to you Guma, Aghanim said, handing the spiked helmet to his wife to give to them. Charged with inciting rebellion, kidnapping the monarch, unlawful occupation of a village, conspiracy against the royal family, and high treason. Kneel. When the large man didn't immediately respond to the order, the wizard slammed his knee into Guma's stomach and then punched him in the side of his head when he bent forward, to bring him to his knees. He then grabbed the large man in a submission hold, squeezing Guma's neck with his arm, demanding that he declare himself Facade's loyal subject and swear fealty to him, just like what had happened at King's Cross before Karok had interrupted them. "Stop!" Guma gagged, unable to free himself. I'm his loyal subject, I swear! I swear fealty to King Facade! Don't forget the Queen, Aghanim reminded him, choking him again. You would give your life for Queen Zelda, wouldn't you? Say it! Guma said the words, coughing and gagging, when he was finally able to draw a proper breath after the wizard released him. Everyone knew the charges and the details of the crimes organized by the large man, but when the part of the trial came for those willing to speak for Guma, everyone was surprised when it was Aghanim who stepped forward, saying that although the cousin of Ganondorf was guilty, some mercy should be shown because of what a dismal failure he was. Like the village idiot trying to live up to his hero, the wizard continued, Guma tried, through ignorance and self-delusion, to follow in Ganondorf's footsteps. This man is a broken, feeble coward, and although he does not deserve it, I ask your highness to consider a show of mercy, out of pity if nothing else. Aghanim smirked at the scowling Guma, intentionally trying to anger and humiliate him further, but the large man wanted any chance to save his own life. He could only sit there and go along with these infuriating insults to what was left of his honor. With the majority of the trial completed, the large man was left to sit there while Facade and Zelda whispered to one another, before eventually calling Miranda over to join in the conversation, while the wizard stayed with Guma. Guma, cousin of Ganondorf, Facade said once the discussions were over. As King of Hyrule, I find you guilty of all charges, but, as the injured party, I must defer sentence to my queen. You and your family have inflicted great harm on my kingdom, Zelda immediately snapped, trying to calm herself. Normally, you would be put to death, but after hearing the words of Lord Aghanim, you will be shown a measure of mercy. As Queen of Hyrule, I sentence you to 20 years hard labor in the service of this kingdom. You will build roads, dig canals, and play the role of a frightened peasant girl in the yearly reenactment of Lord Sheriff Link's heroic defeat of your cousin. Take him away. Now, Guma seemed to come to life, snarling at the guards who grabbed him and trying to lunge angrily for the queen until he was dragged out of sight toward the palace dungeons. Well, the great revolution of Guma and his followers was over, and now that order was restored, all they had left to do was wait for Link to return. Facade, Zelda, and Miranda were delighted to hear that the Lord Sheriff had made it to the Great Palace, but they could only hope that he was prepared for what was waiting within.